What's up, guys? Rogue9 here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hot Breach podcast. With me, as always, Get Flanked and Prodigio. Pete, how's it going?
Awesome. I'm doing okay for a fool.
Oh yeah, you got fooled? I tell you what, I got fooled by a few.
I'm trying to think. Oh, well, Cross Archon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He kind of got me on Twitter. He put out a tweet. I'm guessing this is a joke, and please forgive me if it's not for underestimating you, Cross, if you watch this. But he put out a tweet saying, I joined 100 Thieves. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. 100 Thieves is amazing. And then I was like, okay, wait. I'm pretty sure it's an April Fool's joke, but
Sergio got me with his, because I was talking to someone from possibly joining us on the podcast today, and then this tweet from Sergio comes out where he's saying he's doing a 5v5 10-man €5,000 competition against his arch nemesis Noted, and he puts all these sort of players and people involved, and I'm thinking like, oh, that person was maybe thinking about joining us on the podcast. Hang on, that's really weird. So as I mentioned it, got in touch on Twitter with this guy, and it's like, oh, so I see you're busy, and it's like, oh no, it's an April Fool's joke, and I completely bought it. I was really looking forward to this. I was like, yeah, I mean, Sergio and Noted, they've had this kind of rivalry going on, and we're gonna get a 5-stack versus 5-stack. This is awesome, and yeah,
we need to make that happen. And my money's on the Ball Genius. I think it was Sergio, Bikini, and I forget who else was on that team. Macy,
Godly Noob for sure.
Godly Noob and Macy. Yeah, my money's on that team, man. I would love to see that actually go down.
Oh, they had Fabian as well, so best player in the world there. I tell you what, I was disappointed to see that was actually an April Fool's joke, because that looked awesome. I want to see that.
Okay, so G2 put out a tweet, and I think this is April Fool's. This is April Fool's, right? The Red Bull Raging team, because I was like, sign me up. That's me. Basically, they put out a tweet. I think it's a play on the Fabian memes with him drinking the Red Bull to the side, and they're basically saying that they've like aligned themselves with Red Bull to create the Red Bull Raging team, and they hope to find the best ragers out there. And I'm like, here I am. I'm here. Like, how have I not been contacted by this already? But I'm pretty sure that's an April Fool's joke as well.
They put out quite a lot. I saw one of the tweets was basically G2 have made the ultimate team by cloning Fabian 4 times, and so there's just 5 different versions of Fabian, including one which is him mixed up with Intero with the glasses and the beard, and a guy called Fabio with long hair, which is just absolutely horrific. If you've not seen that tweet, that's worth looking up. Yeah, there's been a few great ones, and maybe we'll chat about some of the better April Fool's jokes we've seen today a little bit later as well. I think the big news, and again, I guess I say we're going away from April Fool's, we're actually coming right back to it. The big news is that today Rainbow Six Siege has had a special event go live, and it is in fact the April Fool's event. Let me get the information of that up on screen for you now, and let's chat about that a little bit. So here we go. Rainbow is Magic is the name of the event, and we can see basically we've got 4 special skins and outfits for various characters. We've got Blackbeard, all in pink with fluffy earmuffs. We've got Smoke wearing a pink leopard onesie. Tachanka is a unicorn, and that would be
Bandit. No, of course
it's Montagna, right? This is Montagna. I'm going to say this is Montagna. He's as some kind of insect. Actually, we'll see it down in the text. Just be completely clear, because actually these operators are quite hard to recognize. I think this is definitely a French operator. So let's have a look at this. What are we getting? We're kind of familiar with this concept. We saw it for the Halloween event, right? We've got a whole bunch of seasonal loot packs coming out with funky new outfits, and in parallel to that, kind of to sort of celebrate that, partially to advertise that, we have a special event. And yeah, in this playlist, it's a special playlist that's running from today, April 1st, until the 8th. We have the mission to rescue the VIP teddy bear on a version of Plane, which is basically a toy-sized version of Plane, which is on the floor in Kid's bedroom. So they've replaced the skybox. You spawn in and you can see Kid's bedroom huge all around you, and you go into this sort of child version or toy version of Plane. And I mean, talking about these kinds of events in the past, when we've looked at the Halloween event specifically, my number one criticism was that it was maybe a bit thin, right? I mean, you think Halloween, we had this version of Haunted House, which was house with a few gargoyles and a few pumpkins and really bad lighting. And it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool. And yes, there were the ghosts and the phone with the messages playing backwards. But all in all, to me, that, and I think we discussed it at the time, and we all kind of had the same feeling, like this is not quite enough to sort of make it worthwhile, to make it justified. And I'll tell you what, when I tried this game mode, this special playlist this afternoon, I was literally floored. It is so much more than I expected. They've put in so many details. Have you had a chance to play that, guys?
Yes. Yeah, I hopped in. I was blown away by it, you know, because first of all, I didn't expect us to get this event today. I knew, you know, it'd come at some stage, but to just log on, I saw Koros's video first. I was like, oh, okay, what's this? Watch Koros's video. I know Koros is watching. I left you a like. And then I hopped in. I was just blown away by the attention to detail. Just so many small things. You know, shooting at a wall, you get the little sparkles, and it leaves like a little... Is it like a star?
Yeah.
It's just, they've just put so much effort in with the announcer's voice, the hostage. Blown away by it. I thought it was so much better than what they did with Halloween.
Yeah, I echo the same thing. Even from the point that you log on, everything's going as normal. All of a sudden you hear the record like stop, and then you see the colorful background and everything. Like, I feel like behind the scenes on this is one of those things where behind the scenes, the people who are like in charge and working on this, I guarantee you they ask themselves or each other 100 different times probably, have we gone too far? Because I mean, like, look at this artwork and stuff. Like, you guys, it's all just so silly. Like Tachanka laying down on a couch with a rainbow unicorn headgear. And, you know, like, I think that every time that they asked themselves, have we gone too far? They said no and went further and just kept going and going and going until we ended up in this like really cool, really pretty, like really bright colored, like wonderland. And I think I mentioned this on Twitter that initially this stuff was kind of leaked, and you only saw the basically the operator uniforms from the leaks. And at that time, I was kind of just like, I don't know about this. Like, that's not really my cup of tea. But I think that coupled with April's Fools and the amount of effort that went into everything, it works. And I think they pulled it off. And I think it's just nice fun, and I like it.
Yeah, it's not just like mostly the uniforms, and they are quite cool, but just how they've put so much effort into reskinning the entire map. The drones have been reskinned. The announcer, everything the announcer says has been redone with themed announcements. That is just so amazing. The hostage is a sort of a person in a teddy bear outfit. It's, yeah, they've just gone so much further than certainly we've ever seen before. So maybe a few more details here. Like I mentioned, so we've got Blackbeard, Montagna on the attacker side, and Smoke and Tachanka, who get full special outfits with weapon skins and special charms and everything involved. And then you also have 8 other characters or operators plus Recruit, who also get a more simpler reskin. So you've got Ash, Thermite, Thatcher, Sledge, Castle Capcan, Bandit, Frost, and then, as I mentioned, the Recruit. And they're basically toy soldiers. They just really vibrant colors that are basically uniform. From a tactical perspective, it sometimes makes them a sort of a little harder to make out. Obviously, you see the color, it sticks out quite a lot, but I did earlier lose a gunfight because I saw sort of one of these colored people through a hole in the wall, but I thought I was aiming at the head and I was actually aiming at a shoulder because just everything blended together, strangely enough. So even though these colors are much easier to make out, they were actually, it was harder to see what body part exactly I'm looking at. But yeah, I lost that gunfight, and you know what? I didn't care because it was just so silly and so fun.
Yeah.
And interesting side note, is there blood splatter?
Yes, but it's like a powdered sort of smoke that emanates from them. Yeah, so I had one where I shot someone and it was like a purple powder that...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, I just one thing I want to say real quick, like to go back to the Halloween thing. I feel like this is the opposite. Like the Halloween, what you got in the packs, I felt like outweighed the event and the actual map and stuff. And this event, I feel like there's some stuff in the packs that's kind of cool, but more than anything, the map, the artwork, the theme, and everything that goes along with it is a bigger deal than the pack. And I think that's well done and where it should be.
Here. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that this one is more the whole package compared to the Halloween event. Whereas the Halloween event did have some cool cosmetics, but then you got in and it was sort of like, oh, so it's sort of its house, which was never the most balanced and mapped, and everything's really dark and you can't particularly see anything. So whereas this one, they've kind of got both right. I think, you know, the cosmetics are cool, particularly smokes. Headgear, I really quite like that, and Tachanka's. And the event as well is amazing. One thing, some of my chat are talking about this, and I've seen it on Twitter. Have you noticed the drone skins? And is that a sign of things to come?
What are they? Because I didn't notice it.
It's like bloody Hello Kitty or something.
Yeah, they've got little cat faces. The drones are coloured, and they've got little cat faces.
Yeah, sort of pink. Well, the ones I saw were sort of pinky. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go a lot of different directions with that. What about different soundtracks that you could download? They did that in Call of Duty, where you could download a soundtrack that was like, I want to say it was like Snoop Dogg doing all the announcement stuff instead of like the normal stuff, and you could see that being a possibility as well as a drone skin. So I see where you're going there. Absolutely.
I mean, even in Apex Legends, you have different audio lines for the different legends that you unlock in game. So that's possible. I think, I could certainly see drone skins being a thing in the future.
The one piece of feedback that I would give on this is there isn't, at least from what I saw, I opened all the packs, I don't remember there being a universal skin. So if I was Ubi, what I would do the next time is have a universal skin attached to a community challenge. So, you know, if you're the person out there who can't buy all the packs, whatever, you can still participate in the community challenge and get that extra pack, as well as a universal skin that says, hey, I was playing the game during this event. Or maybe even a universal, I don't know. Yeah, I guess the charms are universal, but you're not guaranteed to get one of those. Make a universal skin that kind of, you know, shows like, hey, I was here and I participated in this event, that everybody gets to go home with.
Yeah, I mean, everyone who just plays gets one of these Magic Collection packs for free, as we're used to, and you can, throughout this event, by completing challenges, unlock more of them. The news post doesn't actually say how many, but I'm assuming it'll be maybe one or two more, I'm guessing. I've not actually looked at the challenges yet. They weren't loaded.
They're not out yet. They weren't out this morning. I think they're normally come out Tuesdays, so I'm guessing they're waiting for tomorrow for the challenges to come out.
That makes sense, yeah. So I guess we'll see then what else we can just basically grind out by playing. Yeah, universal weapon skins, right? The big mistake that Ubisoft made right in the beginning, and they regretted that, and they still regret that. I mean, they've kind of they've managed to move away from that, but the problem they faced with universal weapon skins or universal skins at all, especially in the early days of the first few years of the game, is whenever they brought out a new weapon, they had to make that skin fit that weapon as well. So nowadays, when they do have universal weapon skins, they tend to only be for the weapons that are already out. They're not guaranteed for future because, yeah, you think about it, I mean, it just ended up snowballing more and more and more work to just make these legacy skins fit on the new weapons. So I can understand how they're not as much of a thing anymore. And for me personally, I suppose if you get a really nice skin and it's universal and it fits on every gun, that is quite nice. But I hardly use them, for me personally anyway. So that would just be my thought on that.
Here's the thing. I thought this patch, this event was going to come around mid-season, but it's not mid-season yet, is it? We're a good few weeks away from mid-season at the moment, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say at least a week.
Only just recently we've seen patch 1.2 in on the test server, and the mid-season one is patch 1.3. So yeah, I'd expect 1.2 to go live first with the changes, and we can maybe talk a little bit about some of those as well. And yeah, I think we're still quite a while away.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned that because Paulson Smoothie, who's the lead game designer, I've got the tweet here. He said basically he's saying it's going to be a hell of an update, the mid-season patch. So obviously there's a lot to discuss that's going on in the game as we have been over the last few weeks, but he seems to be quite excited about this big mid-season patch. So I was just wondering, because of the timing of this playlist, when we could expect that. But like you say, 1.2 and...
Yeah, and we don't have 1.2 yet, so we're probably going to wait until the end of this playlist, then 1.2, then a bit of a buffer, maybe a couple of weeks more, and then maybe 1.3?
I would be surprised if we... okay, let me say this. It wouldn't surprise me if we have the developer notes, win deltas out within 2 weeks from today. And then the patch, like, usually follows that by a couple days or so. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw the developer notes come out maybe on next Tuesday or the following Tuesday. That would kind of be my timeline. I'd say that's what I would expect. But like you said, it doesn't kind of line up with the schedule that we're used to.
So maybe
maybe they're not doing it 1.2. I'm sorry. Maybe they're only doing that in a test server and they're just going to roll it all together.
That's exactly what I was just going to suggest, because 1.2 was basically technical fixes, bug fixes, and some rebalancing of existing characters. So maybe that's just going to, whatever the changes are for 1.3, are just all going to come together? I don't know. There's not all that much time left in the season to have this event go on and then 2 more patches at least. Well, we shall see. We shall see. But it's definitely exciting to see like little teasers come out already. We don't usually get those.
Yeah.
They're definitely calling the mid-season patch 1.3, though. That's a certainty, because that's in Pulsing Smoothie's tweet. So that's definitely 1.3. Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, it wouldn't be at the end of Pro League, would it?
I mean,
they wouldn't do it in between the Pro League season and the finals, would they? No, that would be way too late.
For a mid-season patch, yeah. Really.
Because you're supposed to be announcing at the next finals, they're going to be announcing the next season.
So what date did this season launch officially?
Wasn't it March?
Because Koros is in my chat and he says the Milan final in Italy is on the reveals on May 19th.
Okay.
So we're not too far away from mid-season.
No. Like I said, within 2 weeks, I bet we have at least the win deltas and the developer notes out.
Yeah, it can't be that far. It's been only 6 weeks, I guess, until the final.
So before we move on, Rogue, how long do people have to get in and play this new event? It's time limited. Yes,
exactly. So it's live right now, and it says the news report on the website says until the 8th, which would be, let's see, that's exactly 1 week.
When's? Oh, okay.
It's exactly 1 week. So Monday next week is when it's expected to go down again.
While we're still on the topic of the event, can I just take this a little bit of a different direction here? And because there is a very comparison you can make to Call of Duty. Call of Duty did an event over St. Patrick's Day that was a Shamrock event of somewhat. The way that they did that event was that you had to buy a certain amount of COD points, basically, to unlock the event, to unlock the aesthetics of the event. So once you did that, and forgive me, I didn't play it actually. I'm going based off of what I read in news articles and from other YouTubers. But the way I understand it is that you buy the COD points, you buy the event, and then some aesthetic aspects of the game change during that time period within the game. So like whenever you go in, like there's a game mode there where it normally drops like a dog tag and you have to pick it up. Well, instead of a dog tag, it's going to be a shamrock. And like there was a bunch of stuff like that. They didn't do it just for everybody free to play. They did it to where you had to buy your way in. Siege does the event that everybody can play. So a guy who bought this game a week ago, I think what the lowest edition is now down to $15. So a guy who bought this game for $15 at one point or another could go in and play this event just like everybody else. He's going to get 1 to 2 packs of the cosmetics. Meanwhile, everybody else, if you want to, you can buy the other cosmetic items associated with the packs. So a big difference there. And the reason I brought this up is there has been some concern. You guys were part of this conversation on Twitter the other day of people seeing that from Call of Duty and being concerned that Rainbow was going to go this direction with their events. And I commented on there that that would be really out of character for them. What are your guys' thoughts there on, first of all, how Call of Duty handled that event and also the potential of Siege joining that down the road?
I mean, I don't play Call of Duty, and yeah, that does sound quite different to what Rainbow Six does. Like you say, it would be extremely out of character because the only stuff they paywalled in Siege is obviously the cosmetics, and I guess you could argue the operators, which can be bought now with R6 credits. Though for a while, I do remember when Siege first came out, it wasn't like that. You could only get those operators with Renown. The thing is, I don't actually think it makes commercial sense for Ubisoft to start paywalling these events. I'd never expect them to do that. And the reason for that is because the more people that play it, the more people are likely to buy the skins. I mean, think about the amount of work that went into Outbreak. Like an incredible amount of work. New animations, new characters, new maps. And it was just a limited time thing that everyone could play for free. But you could obviously get the loot packs or alpha packs cosmetics. So I just don't think it makes commercial sense. From the very beginning, you know, when Siege launched at the end of 2015, we were in the midst of every FPS game having a season pass or premium or whatever you want to call it, which split the player base. From the word go, when they announced Rainbow Six and started promoting it, they advertised the season pass as not splitting the community. And a lot of people sort of scratched their head and said, well, why will anyone buy the season pass, even if it's just to unlock operators? And it proved to be a successful model. So I just don't ever see them changing that model. It just doesn't make sense. It's not good for the fan base. And I don't think it's good business sense for a company to do that.
Not only has it proved to be a great model for Ubisoft, but everyone's trying to copy it now. You see Battlefield was trying to copy it. Apex has taken it one step further and just says, here's the game for free, and we'll just do these events, and we'll just do skins and stuff like that. So yeah, it's worked for Ubisoft. It's worked for Rainbow Six. I think the reason why Rainbow Six is as strong as it is now is because of that update philosophy. And I mean, especially sort of, I guess, in the wake of seeing the Activision event, if you're a Call of Duty player and you play both games and you could get worried about it, I can maybe understand that you get worried that something could go wrong and they might change their policy, but yeah, I basically responded the exact same thing to that Twitter conversation. There's just no way it would be done. It's just there is nothing in the past that indicates that this would have happened, that this would have been a paid for event. And I think what's really worth mentioning, I think, Pete, you mentioned it's quite different what Activision had done. I think you're being extremely kind there. Like I said, I've not really touched Blackout or Black Ops 4 in a while, but that sounds horrific. That sounds so stupid to have like an event like that, and especially like if you're mentioning like these little changes, these little perks, the dog tags change into shamrocks, big whoop. Like that's paper thin anyway, even if it was free, and then to charge for that, are they insane?
But Rogue, they charge for everything, and I was watching a Drifter video the other day about it because I'm not in that scene. I don't know. I don't play COD. I'll be honest. So I did play a tiny amount of Blackout, but they monetize everything. There's season passes, there's loot boxes, there's pre-order bonuses, they've just got every method of micro and macro transaction that you can think of. They've just rammed it all in there, which is kind of a shame, because when I think back to some of the first FPS games I was playing on PlayStation 3, it was stuff like COD 4 and Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 1 and 2. And they were brilliant games. I used to love ranking up in that, but now it's all microtransaction hell in those games. And it's such a shame because it takes that progression out, that feeling of you're moving forward in a game and achieving something, and just cramming in a load of microtransactions.
Yeah, I think Activision might still be a little bit behind the learning curve in terms of this sort of long-term model for multiplayer games. Did you guys notice, and do you remember that sort of, this is months ago now, someone somewhere uncovered a patent that had been filed by Activision where they basically tried to patent a system whereby whereby the matchmaking would match you to players that had special skills or abilities or upgrades that would be useful against you, and then when you died against them, it was trying to push you those exact upgrades, and like really, really dirty, influencing the matchmaking system to give you a hard time, to show you what you're missing out on. I'm going by memory here, but that was Activision for you. And I mean, like I said, I've not played Call of Duty in a while, but I do remember also months ago that there was a bit of an uproar because a whole bunch of Call of Duty YouTubers were going back and revising their initial assessment of Black Ops 4, because once these sort of microtransactions and once everything went live, the monetization model went live, the quality of the gaming experience for the players just nosedived, and people were so embarrassed that they'd endorsed this game and they were happy with it initially that they actually went back and just revised their videos about it and gave new assessments, which I personally find is perfectly fair, right? If the game changes and you go back to change your review, absolutely, that's fair. A lot of people were giving them a hard time though, like, oh well, now you're telling us the truth, and why were you so hyped on it in the first place? It's like, I don't know. I personally understand it.
Yeah, but the damage is done then, because so what they're basically doing, release the game and then, oh hey, this seems like a really fair way to monetize it, and then about 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months later or whatever, start ramming in all these loot boxes and calling them different things. It's just a way to make sure you get a positive review and then just bring them in after the review period's over and everyone's bought the game. So
Black Ops 3, honestly, Black Ops 3 came out and said that they were going to have loot boxes in their game, but it was going to be cosmetic only. And that was pre-launch up to launch, and then switched it. Black Ops 3 to this day has the worst microtransaction or loot box system in any game I've ever played in my entire life. It's probably the reason that I don't get worked up about cosmetic only loot boxes or anything in a game now. Like for example, people were in an uproar a little bit. Some people were in an uproar about Apex Legends and their battle pass. I'm just like, I don't care. It's cosmetic only. You know what I mean? Like, buy it if you want. If you don't, fine. You have a free game and nothing in there is going to give anybody an advantage over you. The reason that I can look at it like that is because I go back to Black Ops 3, a game that I played a lot. In their loot boxes, they put guns, not variants of guns that you owned in the game, separate guns that were better. Maybe some of them were better, some of them were worse than the guns that you had in the game. By the time that game entered its second year of life, if you only bought the base game and never opened a supply drop, you would own less than half of the guns available in that game. And there was no way of buying any of those guns by itself. You had to go through the lottery system of the loot box. There were duplicates. I played that game a ton, and I ended up with maybe like 3 or 4 different guns that I got out of loot boxes, out of, no lie, like I'm probably 20. And I played it way more than the average player.
That's my point about the progression. In older CODs, it used to be about progressing up ranks, and then you unlock the weapons, and then they switch this really aggressive form. And yeah, it's just really scummy. It's just really, even in Siege, at least you don't get duplicates in those alpha packs. I mean, I will always prefer it if I could go in and say, hey, I just want Smoke's headgear. Let me buy that.
Oh, you're talking about in the special event packs.
Yeah, but yes, in the paid for special event packs. At least if you buy them, you get them all. You're not going to start getting a load of duplicates pop up, which I guess if you're going to do it, it's a fairer way of doing it. But I would prefer to be able to choose what I want. And
it's cosmetic only. Like, at the end of the day, as long as it's cosmetic only, and I have a hard time really criticizing a studio for monetizing their game with cosmetic items in any way that they really want to.
I agree.
There are better ways to do it than some.
Yeah.
There absolutely are. Don't get me wrong. But as long as it's cosmetic only, I just can't really get too worked up about it like some other people can.
Arguably, some of those cosmetics are better than others. I mean, we all just watched the 6 Invitational. We all remember the skins that they were running around. You know, I think, was it Blood Orchid that released the really, like, the jet black uniforms as well, which were very good. So I guess, yes, cosmetic only. It wouldn't be a stretch to argue that there is some advantage to some of these some of these cosmetics.
Definitely not with this event, though, because you're buying like these brilliant pink, ridiculous things.
The only one I could really see in like Pro League is possibly Montaigne, because Montaigne, you're not going to be camouflaged as Montaigne. You know what I mean? Who cares if you're bright pink, because they know you're coming anyway. So I could see Monty coming into Pro League with that, and his headgear is the best. It's got like butterflies back here.
I'll tell you what, Tachanka I can see as well, because, I mean, Tachanka, you're not really about being hidden and sneaky either. Yeah. You're just sitting in your spot with your shield in front of your face. Earlier, we were talking about the price. Just quickly going back here, Han Solo was quite kind to mention that. So he's saying you can buy the deluxe edition for $12 and get year one ops plus the base game.
Okay.
So
is it on sale? It's on sale, right? $12.
Sounds like it, for sure.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, just on the cosmetics, I think it is weird that in the Pro League they have to have these different cosmetics, because some of the operators do look really different. You think of the Outbreak ones, the yellow ones, and some of the operators can look really similar. I think it would be kind of cool if UB removed that. So in Pro League, you have to use... No, so if you're playing in Pro League, you only see the original skin for every operator. However, they could just, for the spectator, it would be cool if they want to showcase some skins, show the spectator cam, but not to the Pro League players, so that they can identify who they're up against.
That'd be cool.
Give the correct call out.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest solution in terms of having the most competitive and fair environment would be just to ban all non-standard skins and be done with. But of course, that's not something we want. That's not something Ubisoft wants. They want to show off those. They want to give the pro players the chance to show those off. But absolutely, from a technical perspective, to have that so that you have this level playing field, that you're not actually able to influence the outcome of the games or the progression of each match, because the pro players, the players themselves, see original skins, but the viewers get the others. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
We could all see the pink ones from this event.
Exactly.
That'd be kind of
which would actually be would be you'd almost be in danger of going the other way, because obviously they can pick the players then could pick whatever ludicrous skin they want. They could pick up the most outrageous stuff, but they wouldn't see it, which, like, I'm wondering, like,
well, I would go the other way. Ubi could pick whatever skin they wanted. So Ubi brings out a new elite. You put that in Pro League. Every time that somebody picks that operator, they're obviously going to show off the new elite to sell more, you know?
Think this week, guys. Think this week in the Pro League, they could show all these skins this week in the Pro League, but all the players see is original Thermite or whatever.
Yeah. That'd be really cool. I think that there's some other priorities on the spectator front of Pro League. We had Intero on not too long ago, and he had a long wish list for what he's hoping to come to the spectator side of that. But no, I completely agree with you, Pete. And I think that would be a really good way for them to present the best and most exciting skins and stuff in the game without compromising the competitive integrity.
I was thinking about that earlier today, though, because I was thinking, okay, we've got this event. Obviously, the last event was the Halloween event. And I was wondering, like, I don't really remember seeing many of the Halloween outfits show up in Pro League very frequently. Certainly not in recent times. I was just wondering, why? Why are
Sometimes
we seeing
they have
those?
gentlemen's agreements between the teams. I know that towards the end of the Invitational, there were teams who put out gentlemen's agreements saying, hey, none of the Blood Orchid or none of the uniforms, just stock uniforms. So I think sometimes before the match, there are gentlemen's agreements saying, hey, stock uniforms, stock weapon skins, stuff like that.
I'm wondering, though, if there's maybe sort of a clash with Pro League when you have this sort of very serious, very highly competitive game played at the very highest level. And when you go to the finals, there's a lot of money involved. And then you could have these outrageous, ridiculous skins when the game Rainbow Six, it's really about sort of the origins of Rainbow Six as a series for sure, are these sort of this gritty anti-terrorist police and military game. So I'm wondering if maybe like having outrageous skins like Fluffy Pink Blackbeard, in Pro League, if that's just an image that is undesirable.
Could be. In that setting, absolutely. I mean, it's possible. Absolutely. I think there's definitely people who find it undesirable in ranked. I mean, we've already seen that.
When they first brought these out, these head skins, and I think one of the first ones they showed was the Blitz one, and he looked kind of like a clown. And I was really against it. I even made a video about it saying I think it's kind of stupid, then it does take away from the game that you have to look at these skins. But I've kind of mellowed over the last 2.5, 3 years since these head skins came into the game, and now I kind of don't mind so much. But back then, I feel the game was a bit grittier anyway. I mean, the gadgets now are a little bit, they do stretch the bounds of what's possible a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a definite shift in philosophy.
But do you remember when the first sort of Blitz skins and that came out, and they had the clown face and all that stuff?
I remember when Pulse came out. That was like the first elite. I feel like Pulse was like the first elite that was kind of like silly. You know what I mean? The way he brushed his hair back, and like it was kind of a different style for the elites to go. And I remember a lot of people being like, "This is dumb. Why is this in the game? This has no business being here."
The thing is, I think Pulse looks cool in that elite skin. However,
I like that Pulse.
He's running around with that bright jacket on.
Well, another aspect of this, as far as Pro League and cosmetics that we're going to run into down the road, is probably team uniforms. I mean, they already have it to a certain degree, but imagine, like right now, the pilot program involves an operator, their weapon skin, and their uniform. Imagine if we had straight team uniforms, so that it was a universal uniform that fits on any operator that team could wear in game. Again, the team probably wouldn't wear that if it put them at a disadvantage as far as camouflage or something like that. But if Ubi had this spectator mode, that would be a really cool thing. That would actually add to the spectator experience too, because it would more easily allow you to differentiate between the two teams. And just, for people who are new to watching it, could be a nice feature.
Yeah, definitely an interesting idea. Cool. So shall we move on a little bit? One of the things in the most recent test server that was not in the patch notes, was not announced, but has been discovered is a crouch spam fix. Flank, you made a video on that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what they've done?
Basically, the long story short of how it works in the test server, that's a big disclaimer we need to use moving forward with the test server, because as I stated in my video, the test server has become much more volatile than it used to be. It's not for sure that it's going to be coming in that form, but the way that it works right now in the test server is when you crouch, say for like the first 2 times that if you just spam crouch, like the first 2 times that you do it, nothing changes. After that, if you're continuing to spam it, it slows down your movement. It does not limit your range of motion, meaning that it's not like you can only crouch down this level. You can't crouch down to your full normal height anymore. It just slows it down to the point that in between those keystrokes, or in between when you're, if you have it on hold, in between those inputs, you're only going to move a very little bit because your movement is so slow. And what that does is effectively keep your head level from going, at the crazy depths that it did previously. So it takes away a big part of the advantage of crouch spamming while peeking or crouch spamming while in a gunfight.
That to me seems an awful lot like the lean spam fix as well, because if you remember leaning the way it used to be, you could press Q and E really quickly, and your operator would literally switch from full leaning to one side, full leaning the other side almost instantly, and you could just have this crazy movement in there. But the way they've done it now is you can still click those buttons and your operator will still try to lean, but because it slows down, you just have this sort of tiny movement that does almost nothing in the third-person perspective.
That's what I was going to say. Didn't that change more in the third-person perspective than it really did in the first person? Like in the first-person perspective, you still are leaning the same way you were before, but in the third-person perspective, you just see the head just barely move. Instead of this drastic leaning motion like this, it's more like this when you lean. That's the way I understood it.
It's certainly, it didn't feel as if there was much of a change in the first-person perspective. But then if you think about it, if they changed the third-person perspective to not move, but the third person is still moving, then you get into that issue that Godly Noob highlighted, where you can actually get your first-person perspective to peak, even though your third person is not peaking yet. But that wasn't the case. So that's there were some changes made, and then that's not what we have right now, because that would be a way to almost win every gunfight if you do it right. So I want to think that they're still pretty well synchronized, but I'd have to double check really to be sure.
There's basically an upper limit then, or after the first couple, you can't do any more because of the slowing in movement speed. Is that correct?
You still do it. If I'm spamming it, and the last time that I hit C or whatever, however you have it input, you're still going to do exactly what you would normally do when you hit C, no matter what. The only difference is it's going to go a little bit slower on your way to whichever point you're heading towards. Does that make sense?
It's like they added an upper limit on the frequency that you can press that key, and when you reach that, in that period of time, that's when it kicks. Sort of like DMRs. Exactly. They put that into how fast you can fire a DMR. I'm sure that they added an upper limit. Because some people, do you remember Buck's DMR? Some people were firing that so blinking fast that they added an upper limit on how fast you can fire it.
To me, the system sounds a bit like what everyone was asking for. Like you have in CS:GO, you have a fatigue system where if you're genuinely just crouching once, then it will work. But if you're spamming it, then it will just stop working, and you're just basically making yourself almost a stationary target.
Okay, so is that diminishing returns? Because the way that I understood diminishing returns is, I think Blackout has this with jump. On Blackout, if you jump and you spam it over and over again, eventually you'll just like barely even bunny hop. So this isn't that. Because again, you still are able to jump. Comparable to Siege, you would still be able to jump as high as you want, or normally would. You just would get there slower. So it's not diminishing returns, is it? I guess it depends on what you're defining as your return. Is your return your movement speed or your range of motion?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Perfect. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's the speed that I would be referring to rather than the full range.
In the animation.
Yes.
Yeah. I tested it with shields. There's nothing to be alarmed with there. I was a little bit concerned that a shield, because of the limited range of motion, that a shield might be able to get in a position where his feet would be covered and spam it and just not really be able to, you'd be out of the line of sight. I didn't see anything there. I didn't see any difference in between a 3-speed and a 1-speed as far as, how much it slows you down or anything. And the other thing is, there some people going into this, like suggestions for how to fix it. A lot of people suggested that you have some type of difference in accuracy. I didn't see any difference in how you look down sights, where your bullets go as far as your accuracy while doing it. So it's not like the drop shotting fix requires you to un-ADS while you go from prone to standing or standing to prone. It's not like that at all. There's nothing involved there.
Do you think the fix was put in there intentionally? Because I don't remember it being advertised. Was it just, hey, let's see if they find it? They called it a
bug fix. And shout out, I think Han Solo is in my chat here. He came into my stream. He's like, hey, watch this clip. And I watched it. I was like, whoa. And yeah, the way that they called it was a bug fix, that people could affect their player model by spamming crouch or by using a macro with hold. They called it literally a bug fix.
Wow.
So, okay.
Interesting, because I did look over those patch notes, and I completely missed it, to be honest.
Yeah. No, you would think it would almost be a headline rogue, right? This is a really big thing that people have been talking about, and they sort of snuck it in as a bullet point in the patch notes. So
everybody missed it. I mean, Koros missed it. Koros missed it. Come on. Like, if Koros missed it, then they hit it well, okay?
He'll be in my chat now.
Yeah.
Having sort of played about with it, are you sort of quite happy with it in this form?
I am. I think it's one of those situations where if you were to ask me how do you fix the crouch spamming, my suggestion would not have been that good. The way that they actually did it is better than my suggestion would have been, and 99.9% of the suggestions that I ever had on the topic, which I've received a lot. I think, it's a good example of, okay, going into year 4, I was very adamant. Hey, I want crouch spamming fixed. I want lion fixed. I want friendly fire fixed. All this stuff, that we got kind of teased at the invitational reveal and stuff. And then year 4, season 1 comes, it's not there. And we're like, oh, we're disappointed. Well, look at the friendly fire. They added a forgive button. That's an important feature that they added. And in my opinion, worth the wait. The crouch spam fix would have been nice if they could have rolled it out then. But again, this is, in my opinion, what they have in the test server now is it works really well. And if this is what we were waiting on, then well done.
Yeah, Han Solo was mentioning here that the crouch spamming was actually tested in Montreal by the pros. So, so it's been there behind the scenes. But yeah, it's odd that it wasn't advertised. And I'm wondering, is it maybe not coming with this next patch 1.2? Because we've had the Lion rework, we've had the Capitao rework, all these different bits and bobs, but that wasn't mentioned. So I would almost feel as if it's kind of snuck in at this point, but wasn't really, or maybe they're still working on it and it was in there, but it's not advertised because maybe it's not coming. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not the first time they've done that, though. I mean, I seem to remember the drop shotting fix there was no fanfare around that. They just put that in there, and the community noticed it, and obviously creators, and started making videos about it. But I don't seem to remember that. I think that was the same way as well. That wasn't sort of pre-announced.
Okay,
so it's not the first time. I believe so, anyway.
Interesting for sure. Yeah, we'll see when it comes. Anything sort of else you have for the current changes in Rainbow Six, or what's going on right now?
Nothing really that comes to mind. I did notice a little bit higher FPS. Some people are telling me that that's normal for the test server, but to me, I was getting about 20 frames higher in the test server than I was in the live build. And part of the patch notes for the live server were fixed a bug where people were experiencing frame drops or frame stuttering or lower frames in game. They say they fixed that. I'm noticing higher frames in the TS than I am in the live build. So,
I've had a few sound issues. I had a blitz that came up and meleeed me that I didn't hear. I had a few issues with Uplay, which apparently just happens every now and then where you can't get someone into your team. Rogue and I, yesterday, we were playing... we set up a custom game with tactical realism mode, and we sort of tried to recreate... what would you call it? Sort of like a manhunt mode with a load of friends and that was really fun. We were playing that yesterday, but we had this Uplay.
That's happened 2 Sundays in a row now. Sunday is Go For Day. All the pros are playing Go Fors, and obviously non-pros playing their Go Fors. It's a weekend. People are playing Siege, and then halfway through Sunday, we had that last week. We had that this week. You lose the ability to matchmake, and I guess for people just playing regular ranked or casual, it doesn't matter. But obviously, if you're trying to play 10-mans, which we were doing, or custom games. And Go For, obviously, it's all custom games, custom 10-mans. Yeah, that's a problem. So it's odd that this has happened, and it's odd that it's happened 2 Sundays in a row, exactly the day that you probably don't want it. Although I say that, on the other hand, if obviously Pro League is 10-mans as well, imagine it happened during a Pro League gaming session, during a play day. Yeah, well, let's not see that, hopefully.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Right, we were talking about, we started everything off with April Fools. I did want to sort of talk about a little bit about the stuff I've seen today. I checked sort of various gaming platforms. I had a look at Steam and sort of the 50-odd games that I have on there and didn't really notice much. I opened up Origin and checked Apex and Battlefield, nothing. But Ubisoft have been just throwing everything at the wall and trying to make stuff stick with April Fool's jokes. Obviously, we saw Rainbow Six, and we've seen that. Have either of you tried Idle Bit Cruncher?
What?
So if you go into your Uplay and you scroll down to free games, you will find a game called Idle Bit Cruncher, and it's just this tiny, tiny little game that pops up in windowed mode, and it basically pretends to be like malicious software that you need to feed with data. And like I played through it twice like an idiot. All you're doing is just hitting the space bar like a maniac over and over again to fill up this bar and just to get the data crunching faster and faster. And then you can use some of the data you accumulated to basically boost how much data you're doing. It's just it's absolutely silly. But then I went ahead and played through it twice, and then it's actually integrated to the Sam app that you might have on your phone. So it gives you a code to put in there, and it's a little fun story. They did this last year as well with a thing in Uplay where there was a fake developer console, if you remember that. So that was quite neat. Last year it was, I think, a bit more elaborate because there was then sort of like a text-based story game, like one of those really old games that you had to go through, and there were puzzles involved. So those are really, really cool little ideas. One of the best April Fool jokes that I saw today, though, was For Honor. So on Twitter, the For Honor account tweeted this sort of teaser trailer, a short trailer that showed rabbits, basically, these crazy animals that are part of one of the other Ubisoft franchises. They're in For Honor. When I saw this tweet, I thought, oh, that's funny, April Fools. They've actually gone ahead and made the effort of creating this little CGI trailer, right? If it had been just an image, I would have thought, haha, yeah, you think you got me, that was funny. But they actually made a trailer where these For Honor knights are fighting these rabbits, and I thought, oh yeah, they put some effort in to make that a whole trailer. And then it turns out the actual April Fool's joke is it's not just a trailer, it's actually in the game, but only today, which I just think is that's an extra level, because you see this and you think it's like, this is just too silly to be true, April Fools, sure, and then it turns out to actually be a thing, and you can go into by the time this probably goes up on YouTube, it'll probably be down, but if you played on April 1st, you could go into For Honor and play against rabbits. But in terms of other games companies, the only other thing I saw was for Mass Effect, you can buy a body pillow or a body pillow case of one of the characters. And again, it was one of those tweets that looked like a joke, like you can get a Garrus body pillow and you think, the April Fools, but then when you click on it and they actually retweeted it later and said, oh, actually, we're not joking, you can go and buy this right now. So, and that's the actual joke. I thought that was, the concept is really interesting, where you have something that so obviously looks like an April Fool's joke, but then the actual joke is, oh no, it's real.
Yeah.
I've never done April Fool's jokes. I just think they're a bit cheesy. I was out in my car earlier. I had the radio on, and they would talk about April Fool's jokes, and one of the ones they would talk about, because all the newspapers here do them, and one of them was 50. We have a coin called the 50 pence piece in Britain, and they said that they're releasing the 50 poo piece, and it was going to be the 50 pence piece, and it's going to have the Queen on one side, and then on the other side it was going to have the poo emoji, and it was part of what the Royal Mint was doing, this whole thing, putting these new coins out that, with emojis and that for younger people, and they were calling it the 50 poo piece. And people believed it.
I would say there's probably one that I would have maybe seen through. Maybe just about. It sounds a bit silly. Han Solo's asking, are we not going to talk about Intero joining G2? Yes, that dead horse was flogged once again. You might remember sort of, I think this was this just before the season started, this half of the season started, there was this whole joke about Intero was going to be replacing Goga on G2. And it kind of was a small joke, and then ESL started tweeting about the change, and then G2 started tweeting about the change, and it just became this big thing. That came back, so Intero is again joining G2. And I think they were benching Fabian. And this was another G2 tweet. They put out several today. So G2 as the organization, they're benching Fabian because he's too good for the team. There's just no one who can live up to his expectations. So they're promoting him onto the bench and instead bringing Intero on. That was quite a good one as well.
Speaking of Fabian, this, the evil Grinch of Siege, the God Emperor himself, guy who, gets kind of a bad rap, I guess, for some people. You love him or hate him. He streamed the other day and raised, I believe, over $2,000 for a dog that needed a surgery that the owner couldn't afford, basically. So shout out to Fabian for being a good guy and, helping out somebody. I'm sure that they really appreciate it. And that dog, I guess the story with that dog is the dog's healthy other than that surgery, but that surgery is going to shorten the dog's life. And it's not like the dog's on its last breath. The dog is going to get hopefully several more years of life out of this. And I think that's a cool story.
Yeah, the dog's only 4 years old, so relatively young still. And yeah, they definitely raised enough money to get that surgery done. That was great of him. And it was actually a very entertaining stream as well. I remember sort of joining it, and relatively early on, Fabian just sort of stops. Like, what is that constant sound? What is this annoying sound? And it's the generic subscription sound that he's never changed. So it was just people subscribing. It's like, stop subscribing, ban all the subscribers. What is going on? And at that point, I had to subscribe. And when you subscribe, the way he set it up originally is that the different tiers of subscription are different team members of G2, and the very first one is still Shate. So it was so funny to see this guy who's one of the best players in the world in Siege, and he's streaming Siege, and he's just, he doesn't stream a lot. Like, I don't know how to stream properly. I'm a total noob at streaming, and it's never highly polished, but that was something else to watch. Yeah. Nevertheless, great for him to do that. I think that's definitely worth shouting out. Let's talk a little bit about some other things. One thing that is that's kind of it's weighing on me. Like I like Battlefield as games, and I've even Battlefield 5 through all its flaws. I've played that quite a lot, and for a while I was playing that every day almost. Every other day I was playing it quite a lot. Ever since Firestorm has come out, I tried it that once, and I've not even gone back to the regular game. It's really odd how they've finally added this thing that was promised at launch and was so delayed, and this is the big thing to pull it back. And from my personal experience, obviously I'm only a sample size of one, but from my personal experience, it's completely turned me off the game. I've not touched it at all since Firestorm came out. Have you guys played that at all?
I haven't touched it anymore. And, I feel like we're having our weekly Battlefield 5 whipping session on this podcast. But it kind of deserves it. Battlefield 5 is so dead at this point that nobody even cares that Firestorm is boring and a failure. I put up a video on my channel talking about how Firestorm is extremely boring. Normally that video, it's a first-person shooter, it's the Battlefield franchise. Normally that video would catch traction, even though my channel is not primarily about Battlefield, and do pretty well. It's a pretty gravitating title there that, hey, this game is extremely boring. Here's how I'd fix it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
That's the circles you're moving in, though, Flanked, because I can tell you there's a lot of... Go watch Battlefield YouTuber videos or see what they're talking about on Twitter. You're just not in those circles.
Okay, Battlefield hardcore people. Nobody outside of people who care. Like, there's nobody who isn't playing Battlefield 5 that cares that Firestorm is boring. Does that make sense to you? Like, the gamers as a whole don't care about Firestorm at all. Like... There's people within the Firestorm community that do. There may be some people within the Battle Royale community that do, but gamers as a whole don't really care. Unless I just missed. Okay, fair enough. Maybe I just missed with that video. But think about this, Pete. I'll go a little bit of a different direction. That game, Firestorm, launched with what is widely regarded as the worst looting system that has ever existed any battle royale game. And it's not like it took, several play days to figure that out. Everybody knew that the first time that they killed somebody and watched everything fall out on the ground. So think about this. They launched that game with that system, meaning one of these things is possible. They knew it and didn't care. They thought it was good. Or I guess, is that really the two options? They knew that it was that bad and didn't care and launched it anyway, or they didn't think it was that bad.
In fairness, it's been 1 week. It's been 1 week and they've already tweaked it.
Why launch it that way, though? How does that make it out of playtesting? If that makes it out of playtesting, it's one of those two things. Either you launch it and don't care, you don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, or two, you don't think it's bad. And if you didn't think that was bad, you're surrounded by yes men, and you need to get an entirely new staff.
I'm telling you now,
somebody should have stopped that.
Yeah. I'm telling you now, there is no way that the YouTubers that would have I wasn't one of them, but the YouTubers that went to Stockholm and went away and played that, there is no way they didn't feed that back to them. There is no way. I know that they would have told them, because I've been in some of those sessions where they can be really brutal. I've sat there and given feedback, and there's no point sitting there and saying, oh, yes, this is brilliant. But YouTubers will sit there and say, look, that is crap. That needs to be changed. So there's no way they didn't know. And the shame about it, where I really agree with you on this, is why release it like that? Because all you've done is generate a week of negative publicity for your game. Because I'll be honest, I haven't bothered with it, and that was one of the things that turned me off, because it looks so ridiculous. Now, I will at some point give it an opportunity. I do own Battlefield 5, and I will go in and try but there are so many other games I'd much rather play right now. And now Siege has got this Rainbow as Magic out. I'll be playing that for the next week, or at least the next few days. I really want to play that. So I'll go back at some point, but launching with that, that's really just put it on a downer for me, because it looks absolutely ridiculous to just have all this loot everywhere, and you've got to run through and find the right, even if they have fixed it. Go on.
Here's reason number 3, and that is, I think, the Battlefield disease, and that is just time pressure. It's just they've set a date, it needs to come out now, and it just launches, and they fix it later. Because think about this, the fact that they managed to fix it within a week, either they're absolute wizards and their updating schedule is just awesome and amazing, and they can just tweak things on the fly and they can or this has actually been in the works for quite a while and it just wasn't quite ready for launch, so they brought it out just a few days or a week after launch.
I think what needs clarification, you're saying fix. It's a tweak at best. It's still the same system. It still all lays out on the ground. It's just that they spread it out a little bit more and they don't have items overlap. It's still a bad system, okay? Here's what they did with Firestorm. They created a battle royale game mode with the least amount of effort possible. They didn't want to create a new menu system that isn't involved in the base game of Battlefield 5. There is nothing in Battlefield 5 that manages your inventory like a typical battle royale would. You would have to create a new system for that. If you think about Apex Legends, think about any battle royale other than Fortnite, and the inventory system. There's nothing in the game like that. That system would have had to have been created, and they didn't do that because, in my opinion, they wanted to. They can use the excuse of artists. They wanted it to be immersive, but really they wanted to create a Battlefield 5 battle royale experience using the least amount of effort possible. And this fix still allows them to do that. Until they come out and actually have an inventory management system, I still think it's a bad system.
Here's the flip side, though. Like, that whole having your entire inventory displayed on the bottom right-hand corner in this sort of semi-transparent box, I will say that the first time you see that, it's overwhelming because there's so much. You've got everything in there. You've got 2 different gadget slots. You've got your health in there. You've got ammunition for like 5 different weapon types or whatever it is. You've got 2 different weapons plus a pistol. It is overwhelming the first time you see it. But I think if and once you get used to it, I actually like that. I like that I don't have to go into a menu and look through my stuff. I like that I can look down. I can see everything I have. If I want to drop one certain thing, I can drop it right now. I can do this here. I think that's actually a really interesting and potentially clever way of streamlining it.
I'll agree with that. It has potential. It certainly does. I think there's a couple of things that I mentioned that I would change about it. First of all, right now, or at least last time I played, your armor plates can go to 2 different spots. And in my opinion, you have 1 button for that. Make it to where it goes to the same spot every time. And no matter what, it's either going to be 3 or 4 right now, I believe. make it to where it's either one of those, no matter what, because that's something you're going to be using very consistently. I agree that side aspect has potential there, but that should be in addition to the normal inventory system, the normal looting system, not in replace of. It should, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like if I hit tab, I should still be able to get the expanded view, basically, is what I'm thinking. But have that up at all the times. And then once you're good, you might not ever, because you know how to manage it right there. But while you're looting, that would still be something you could use.
I'd almost feel it's just a duplication, because what would an inventory show you that isn't already down there?
Well, the inventory system would allow you to open up a box and see its contents without it all being spread out on the floor, without having those physical contents spread out in front of you.
I mean, the problem with Battlefield was that it was just too close and overlapping, and that sometimes you wanted to pick up one thing and it would give you the wrong stuff. And I think actually one of the tweaks they've also done is a bit of an intelligence system in there, so that it will guide you towards the right thing, so it will have less of a chance of picking up the stuff you don't want. There's a bit of an algorithm that runs behind that. So the problem was just that it was cluttered and you picking up the wrong stuff. But I'm thinking, like, look at Fortnite. Fortnite does it like that, right? You shoot someone and just all of these different things pop out. And all it is you need to get used to that. Because, I mean, you watch someone who has experience in Fortnite, and when they're looting, they kill someone and they just look down and they just go tick, 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 and they've picked up everything they wanted and off they go. And I'm just looking at that and I think, like, what on earth? What is that? I don't even know what they're picking up. Like, when you're not used to it, you need to process it. You need to look at all the items. You need to understand what's going on. But I think Fortnite quite rightfully shows that even this sort of system of just everything popping out can work.
It can, but Fortnite has a couple advantages in fact. The items in Fortnite float a little bit more, and I think they have like a kind of like a halo around them in a sense that kind of makes them just pop out and distinguish themselves a little bit more. The other thing is that the textures in Fortnite allow the items to pop out a little bit more. So like the clip that I showed in my video, I was inside of a dark room. I killed somebody and all this stuff spread out in the corner of this dark room. In Fortnite, you don't really have that. You've got the bright colors, you got a lot of contrast, you've got the not as many textures. So if I kill somebody in Battlefield, it might be in like tall grass or in a bush, and those items are going to get spread out in that. And I think that Fortnite is a little bit easier. But no, I get point taken that they can certainly improve upon this, and they may have at this point. And it's not. It could end up not being a deal breaker for the game. They could put it into a place where it works. I'll say that.
Yep. I just thought it was interesting because kind of this whole launch has come at an expense in that the weekly challenge that they had, I mean, for the last few months almost, every week you're unlocking a new gun, a new tank, a new plane. Every week you get to take part in these challenges to unlock something big. And this week it was a skin, a single skin. And there was just no incentive, certainly for me, to actually go back and do that. And it's odd that, this has probably been the first week since launch that I've not played it. And it's kind of because of this huge addition that's supposed to be the big thing. So there you go. Pete, did you have any thoughts?
Not especially. Yeah. What do you think about the map from just like the videos I've seen? So they advertise it. It's the biggest map in Battlefield 5. I guess probably one of the biggest ever.
No, for sure. The biggest ever. It's huge.
Including all the old Battlefields, yes. Yeah? So, but it's never all playable. And
that was tweaked as well. At launch, it was never all playable. But even within days, they changed it so that the initial ring is much larger. So the way it worked on launch was that you already have the first ring and like half of the map was unplayable. I believe that has been changed already as well, and you have more freedom of landing.
Right. So you see, I didn't know that. So I got that initial thing that I could see. Let me just put this down. So I could see the map like that, and then the circle was like, so you never ever got to play all of the map. And it just felt that was done because it was a 60-player game or whatever, and it was for the pacing of it. And it kind of put me off it a little bit, because if you've got this big map, I don't want to be limited to a certain aspect of it. If I have a favourite place, I want to be able to go to that place. It just seems kind of a weird way to do Battle Royale.
Well, I think you might have hit the nail on the head there with the pacing because, like I say, I played it for one day and, again, echoing Flanked here, it's boring because you land and you have 1 or 2 gunfights and then most games, I didn't see anyone until the very end because it's so huge and because there's so little visibility and because you can sneak around so much. There's not... And again, maybe it's Apex Legends spoiling us because Apex has action throughout and you're always getting into gunfights and here's another team and there's another team and you're always fighting your way through the entire match. Like, sure, you can hide somewhere and you can get away with that and if that's your playstyle, but if you're out to have an action-packed game, you will have action from the moment you land to the moment the game is over. You're always moving, you're always hearing stuff, seeing stuff, doing stuff, fighting people. Battlefield is not that. There is a lot of dead time in between where you might not see anyone and then out of nowhere someone who's lying prone in a bush will just mow you down and then you can wait 2 or 3 minutes until you get into the next match. And maybe you're completely right there. Maybe it was the initial sort of ring to restrict the map, to give it more action, to increase the pacing, to make it less dead space in between.
That was my thought process there. Well, really, the solution is not to say, hey, here's a great map, you can now play on 70% of it. It's more, I think a better solution would be, let's just have some more players in there.
So maybe in the short term, have they now degraded the player experience in order to give that initial landing choice?
I say this ain't in
meaning the pace is even slower now. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. Well, because if it's even larger, then it's going to be even slower.
It could. So it's kind of like what you said there. That in the previous iteration, it was you land, and because that circle restricted it, when you landed, you were likely to land with somebody. So now I think that might be a case where you land and maybe you don't land with somebody. You get the loot that you need, and then everybody's going to be moving. So you might actually pick up the pace of play by doing that. I know it seems backwards, but maybe that picks up the pace of play because you get few people dead within the first minute. Fewer people will die in the first minute because fewer people are landing together, and there'll be more people alive in that kind of intermediate middle game. Is that possible? It's a possibility.
It's an interesting theory, and the only way I would be able to say is if I'd played enough of it before it changed and was playing it now. It's an interesting theory. I don't know. I couldn't say.
Talking about this kind of brings up a point for me that I think is a little bit interesting to talk about. Is battle royale fatigue a possibility? I know, like, I've never considered myself a big battle royale player. I will tell you wholeheartedly that my favorite battle royale is Apex Legends, but I don't have that strong of a desire to play it at this point, just because I'm kind of burnt out on battle royales. Pete, I know that you've been playing. You played a lot of PUBG. You probably played more battle royale than any of us. What do you think?
I'm not fatigued by it. I think it's good to have competition out there for people that do like that genre, this growing genre of battle royale. But I've liked it since its inception. I used to play the armor mods of battle royale. Now I get a lot of comments from people saying battle royale, I'm not interested, which I totally get. And I think a fair argument would be it can limit creativity. So if we have all these studios putting out battle royales, what would they have created if battle royale wasn't a thing? Is there other really creative games that could be out there that battle royale is strangling out of that creative process? But that being said, I guess they're all in it to make a buck, and they're not going to put out something that they don't think is going to be popular. But I do think that argument carries some water, some weight to that. With all these different battle royales coming out, and we've seen some indie games doing it as well. Even CSGO has battle royale. I mean, bloody hell, does CSGO need battle royale? So I can see the argument that people are getting a bit sick of it.
Let me ask you this. If Firestorm would have come out before Blackout, before Apex Legends, how much different do you think that game would have been received?
No, I think if it came out in the same state it come out with the loot system, with the map as I saw in those initial videos, it wouldn't have piqued my interest right away. I wouldn't have been like, hey, I need to go play this game. It is something I'll play eventually and I will get around to, but it's not top of that list of things. And I don't think that Apex Legends, and what was the other one you mentioned? What was the other one?
Blackout. If it had come out before those two games,
I don't think that that's had any sway on how it's. Maybe Apex Legends, to be fair, because they did so many things right. But I still don't think that that's taken. I don't think that Battlefield would have been massively popular, and that Apex Legends is the main thing pulling away from their Battle Royale mode. I just think people maybe play Apex Legends and think, oh, there's a load of cool stuff here, and they half expect, because EA publishes Firestorm, to see some of those things carried over. But these are two very separate studios.
I would disagree. I think if Firestorm had come out before Blackout, before Apex, I think it would have had far more of a splash, and I think it would have been judged far less harshly, because the only competitors up until then would have been PUBG, which spent years of its life as a mess, as a pre-release and rather subpar game, to be fair. It's improved a lot, and it's still actually improving a lot, and that's a great thing. Hats off to them. But gee, it was a rough experience early on. I mean, it wasn't really. It wasn't a AAA game. It was an indie game, and there you go. And it was early access. And I mean, look at the life that Blackout had. Blackout, when it came out, there was a lot of hype around it. It was the first AAA game that's doing Battle Royale. A lot of people played it. It was all over Twitch. It made a splash. It died off like a stone falling into water and just bloop, gone. But it had an initial impact, and I'm wondering if maybe some of the players who got in are still into it. Not as many, sure, but no, I would say 100%. If Firestorm had been out earlier, it wouldn't have been judged as harshly, and it wouldn't have been just another Me Too. It would have been more of a, okay, at least we're here getting with the first really polished, really interesting. And I mean, there are interesting mechanics in there with being able to destroy the buildings, and the firestorm sort of just swallows up the buildings and evaporates them as you go along. There's some cool stuff in there. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of buried underneath all of that because they came out too late, because especially EA competing with themselves with goddamn Apex Legends. I still don't understand who at the top at some business level said, oh yeah, we'll have two of our studios just knife fight it out and one of them will survive. It's like, how are you greenlighting two projects that are so cannibalistic in terms of
and then throwing Anthem in between them? Think about that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know Anthem's not a battle royale, but literally Apex Legends, Anthem, Firestorm, like all within a 2-month period.
All within the shooting genre as well.
Yeah.
You know, the shooting.
Yeah.
I think, I agree with what you say. You made some valid points there, Rogue. I guess what I'm saying is, if Firestorm came out, let's say October or whatever, it wouldn't have piqued my interest enough to move me over from PUBG. I still think that is far superior in so many different mechanics that I wouldn't have been interested in moving from PUBG to Firestorm. But I do agree, like, Apex Legends coming before it has definitely not helped, because they've done so many things right.
And it's free.
One area it did help in, let me just say this real quick, is the 64-person lobbies. It's acceptable because Apex did it, I feel like. If Apex didn't have that, I feel like Firestorm would have gotten roasted for not having 100-person lobbies.
What did Blackout have? 80?
80, and then they bumped it up. It eventually hit 100.
Okay.
Because that's the arbitrary number that we need for Battle Royales, right? Because obviously then PUBG did it first and they did it.
I'm trying to remember what the limit was in the armor mod, well, how many players went in, but that was a lot. Well, there was one that was quite quick, quite a small map, but the main one was very slow. I can't remember what the limit was.
I wouldn't know. That's something that bypassed me completely. But actually, you mentioned things that PUBG does well. Oh, are we all back? Are we all here?
Yeah, we're here. We're here.
There we go. That was a bit odd. Tell us then, Pete. What is it that makes what does PUBG do really well that makes them stand out?
I like the cities, so you can say, right, I'm going to go to so and so city, and I'm going to spend some time in that city. So you have, from what I've seen of the Battlefield 1, it just seems to be like farm buildings and outhouses. You don't have actual like cities where you have squads going to cities. I like the fact that it's got solos, duos, squads. I like the weapon mechanics. I like the fact that I can adjust my weapon with different attachments and not just pick up a weapon that has... It's an epic weapon, so it has an ACOG on or something. You know, I can choose to go into the menu and put those things on. And I think as well, because they were one of the first Battle Royale games, other than mods and stuff, I think it does have a place in my heart for that. You know, when the competitor was Fortnite, which I feel appealed to maybe a younger audience than where I am. You know, I'm in my 30s. So Fortnite wasn't really ever my thing, but PUBG felt grittier than that. So yeah, so that's some of the reasons that I love PUBG, and I think it is a superior game to most of the other Battle Royale games out there. That being said, I haven't played it in bloody ages. The Battle Royale game I play most at the moment is Apex, and I haven't played that in over a week.
Yeah, and I mean, Apex has all of that. I mean, I think the looting system and the attachment system, it's there, and it's so easy to understand and so easy to manage compared to PUBG, where you have all this stuff to throw around and is a bit more complex.
I like the scale of PUBG, though. I do like the fact that I could choose for a hot drop and I could go to school or the military base island, and it would just be a really quick round or a really great round, and I get all the good gear. Or I can just say, hey, you know, I'm going to choose a really quiet farm building and I'm just going to start slow and build up. I can choose if it's going to be really hectic or you know, or slow from the beginning.
Okay, actually, yeah. Because like when you said all these things in PUBG that I thought about, it's like I can't name a single one. What I want to hear these, but no, you're actually right. There's some really cool stuff you've mentioned, especially like the large cities.
And the way the weapons feel, it feels a lot grittier than a lot of other battle royales out there. Do you know what I mean? It feels it's not, but it feels like a military sort of sim almost. It's a lot more hardcore in that sense than most others out there.
Okay. Here's my issue. Like when Pete explains it like that, everything I just heard from Pete sounds really fun and really up my alley. Like honestly, Pete's got me pumped. Like I want to log on to PUBG tonight and play some. The problem is that the reality of whenever I do that is that I'm going to waste a lot of my time because, like you said, some of those drops, I'm just going to get melted immediately. And then I'm going to be in that stupid loading lobby. And then I'm going to, you know, by the time I'm on the ground and in the action of another game, minutes go by. And then, you know, so that's why I think my favorite Battle Royale is Apex Legends. They have done such a good job in that game of limiting the amount of games that you play that are a waste of your time because your team can respawn you, because you have that knockdown shield. They put a lot of mechanics in that game to make it feel like you don't have those throwaway games very often. And I feel like in PUBG you do.
Yeah, I think loading lobby, that's a really good key point you've mentioned there, because that's something that, again, Battlefield copied. And it's just so boring sitting in this stupid hangar. And yeah, you can pick up some weapons and shoot some people and nothing happens to them. And then finally the doors open and you can just go and play. And again, Apex has spoiled us there because we don't do that. Yeah, you sit in this menu a little bit while everyone chooses, but stuff's happening. And you feel like you're getting into the game quicker. You do, from a time perspective, get into the game quicker, and you don't feel as if you're just wasting your time in a lobby running around punching people and nothing happens to them.
Yeah, PUBG does have its own pacing issues, but I like the fact that you can just really be in control of the pacing. You know, so often I would go for a quick drop, or I may go to Stulba, you know, and find a car and try and make my way into the circle slowly and see if I can win with just getting 2 or 3 kills.
As is your want.
You know, yeah, well, a win's a win, right? But it feels more real, you know, PUBG. If you want to fantasize about, you know, this being a real situation and daydream that you're doing this as you play the game, you're not going to be able to... No, but, you know, it's escapism, right? Playing video games. This is why people want realism in Siege. They want to feel like they're really breaking into a building and trying to rescue a hostage or whatever. You can certainly do that a lot more with PUBG and feel that vibe of, you know, being hunted and the grittiness of it than you would say Fortnite. I mean, it's so cartoony and so surreal. that it never even tries to go down that avenue. It just is fun for other reasons.
Here's one more thing before we move on. One thing you've criticized, or you were initially going to criticize Firestorm for, Pete, specifically you.
We're coming to the map, yeah?
No. The 3-player... Is it 3? No, is it 4-man? It's 4-man. Is it 3 or 4-man squads? What's the squads? I've not played a squad game.
It's 4-person squads.
4. Okay, so initially it was supposed to be 4-person squads only, and then before launch they sort of added the single-player option into there. I would argue that a lot of the things in that game, like those bunkers you have to open with 2 different wheels, the vehicles where you have to have different parts of the vehicle occupied by different players, you can't play as in you would in the regular multiplayer where a driver can just control the turret and the vehicle itself. So there's a lot of mechanics in there that are purposefully built for squad gameplay, and obviously we have squad-only gameplay in Apex. So my question is, have they maybe done themselves a disservice again by putting in the single-player option?
No.
Because it's just... I feel like playing as squads is just it must be a much better experience for Firestorm than playing single.
Yeah, it most likely is, but it's just given the agency to the person to say, all my friends aren't online, I don't want to get paired with some clowns, I'll just play solos. Or me and you are online, in Apex we have to play with a random third person. But if it's just me and you, if we could play duos, a lot of the time you can be paired with a really odd third person. So it's just given that agency to the player. With regards to the vehicle breakouts, like, this is coming from someone that hasn't played it, so it's a bit disingenuous that I'm talking so much about this stuff, but I'm only telling you from the discussions I've had with yourselves and other people that have played it and what I've seen. But it just feels a little bit like tacked on, that it's going to make a cool trailer, the vehicle breakout, just like Siege of Shanghai Skyscraper coming down for Battlefield 4 made a wicked trailer. You know, all these different Levolution in Battlefield. There was, you name a Battlefield, they always have these things that sound bloody awesome and they look cool in trailers, but when it actually comes down to it, does it make a blind bit of difference half the time? Does it improve the game? I remember playing certain maps in Battlefield 4 that had this Levolution. It didn't improve them. I was like, please don't trigger the Levolution. It makes the map so much worse. But hey, we better put it in because it's a great marketing tool. Hey, we've got tanks. Yeah, great. I really want to come up against a tank when I'm in the last circle.
And you have no AT weapons.
And even people that have played in a tank say it's a bit underwhelming. You know, so I think these games need to have the solos and duos, you know, because I do feel that there's just a group of people that want to play that way. And it's just, they don't have to have them, but I think it's better for the health of the game that they have them, because it will attract a wider player base. Even if it is better, you experience it with a squad of 4 people, you know.
So do you think
maybe then streamers
Apex,
like Shroud and
maybe then
disrespect.
What if Apex had a single or maybe a duo mode?
It will come. It will come. You know, the interesting thing about Firestorm is I saw that duos is coming, but for a limited time period. Did you see that?
I've not heard that, but
nobody cares about Firestorm.
I know,
nobody's seen anything.
Can we move on?
Nobody cares. As soon as you hear the word Firestorm, you just tune out whatever's coming after that.
Who started this stupid conversation? Why are we even talking about this?
No, but it's worth talking about. But
talking about that with Apex. Let me throw something out here that I've thought about. You guys can tell me if I'm crazy. I think personally that the decision to go squads only in Apex had a lot of benefits for that game. First of all, it benefits the hardcore gamer. So if you're the guy who has 2 friends that you can play with and you get your organized squad together, you're going to stomp the lobby that's full of what, maybe half of the other teams are all just random people that aren't communicating, that, you know, that aren't playing together, that aren't experienced. So in essence, if they do put duos and solos in Apex, there's going to be a lot of people out there that think that they're really good at Apex that are in for a rude awakening, because that's going to instantly transform those lobbies into, if you're playing in squads, you're going to be playing against other squads for the vast majority. Instead of half the teams in there being random squads made up of random solos, it's going to be one or two in there made up of solos, and that's going to change things immediately. And I'll say it, Apex by far, I've won way more games. My win percentage in Apex is by far higher than any other battle royale I've ever played, and it's not even close, and it's for that reason. So the hardcore gamer plays Apex, wins more. Hey, this game's fun. I'm winning. I never won in battle royales before.
You're completely right, and I can echo the same thing for playing regular Battlefield 5. Most of the time when I play, I'm at least with 2 friends, maybe even 3, and we're in a 4 squad, and it's just so much easier than playing in random squads or playing solo. And yeah, that's actually a really interesting thing about Apex. That's maybe what makes it such a good stream game right now, because if you have 3 streamers who play this game 8 hours a day, they get together, they win 3/4 of their matches, maybe even more. They're just winning almost every game, sometimes like with 20, 30 kills, they're cleaning up half the server. I suppose you're actually completely right, because you have most of the groups maybe that aren't actually communicating as much. It's not something that even occurs to me.
Those people would all normally be in solo if you gave them the opportunity.
Yeah.
But they don't have that, so here they are.
Interesting. So maybe we should get into Apex right now and get some friends together and really enjoy it until before it starts getting an awful lot harder.
Ultimately, though, a lot of the streamers, Shroud, Ninja, Dr. Disrespect, these really big streamers, although they might have friends, other streamers that they get together with and play Apex Legends with, they still like doing their own solo streams and chatting with their stream chat and having, chill out streams and stuff. So having the solos there for them eventually would be a good thing for the health of the game.
And I'm not pointing fingers at them by any means. I'm not talking about the big streamers that they're going to be in for a rude awakening. I think it's more maybe the average player out there that maybe tried PUBG, didn't have much success, blackout. I'm okay. Now I play Apex and I'm winning like half my games, and that person's in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, I think. Let's have a look at Pro League then. Let's move on to that, get back to Rainbow Six, and then maybe end up on some Q&A. So let me get that up, and we'll go through the standings and some of the events that we've had this week. Hang on, let me do it that way. So there we go. Starting off in EU, let me run through the standings. We have, surprise, surprise, it's Team Empire at the very top with 9 wins and 1 draw still. Followed by Le Stream, Empire was on 28 points, Le Stream is on 20 points. G2 have managed to claw their way up to 3rd place now in the table. They're on 16 points, so they're still 4 points behind Le Stream. Chaos on 15, great to see for them on number 4. Then we have Penta on 12 points, Mouse on 10, Navi or Natus Vinkere on 7, and then Team Secret, they've had 2 wins, they're on 6 points at the very bottom of the table.
Interesting.
Not a lot has changed in terms of sort of the top movements. G2 have moved up a little bit. They won their match this week again. They did well. But
I saw them getting roasted on Twitter earlier this week. Did you see? I think it was it a chat between Kix and Fabian saying something about going to Milan, and Fabian was saying, yeah, we're okay with not going, and I forget. I'm trying to quote a tweet that I haven't even got.
I mean, he said in the post-game interview, they won their match this week, and he said at the end, he's like, yeah, if we go, that would be a nice bonus, but we're not that worried about it, basically, is what he said.
Well, you had that chat with him all about that, didn't you, on your Pro and the Potato, which was really good insight, actually, into the thought processes behind this season. And it confirmed the rumours, that we all know.
Yeah, that episode was shouted out on the live stream of the Pro League as well.
Was it?
Yep.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So well,
I made it, boys. I made it. Your boy get flanked out here making moves. Come on now.
Yeah, man.
Nicely done. Yeah, I think mathematically G2, they're not out yet, but they're now dependent on the stream slipping up, basically.
Did they play any of those top teams? Didn't they play Stream recently?
Yeah, they already did. This second half, they've already played Stream.
Two draws.
So they don't control. They don't control their own destiny. They need help.
Let's see Stream's. What's Stream's schedule like? They've got Empire to come.
Yeah. Okay.
Their penultimate game, they've got Empire.
Empire could throw that. They're pretty much locked. They don't need to win that. Empire throws that. They assure that they will not play G2 in Milan. That's a no-brainer.
I mean, no team would do that flanked.
Oh, now come on. Let's be real here.
Let's wait for it to happen before we start.
Okay, if you were the Team Empire's coach or their in-game leader, whatever, would you advise them to do that?
Would you save strats?
That's a perfect excuse. Hey, we're just saving strats. We're not throwing. We tried to win, but we're saving strats. We're already locked in. So the stream beat us.
You couldn't blatantly do it. Wasn't there some sort of hoo-ha in the past about something?
It was the end of last season. Where was it Mouse obviously being a North American game at the team at the time? I think they were they involved? Hope I'm not throwing them under the bus now for no reason. But that exactly that. There was an outcry towards the end of last season because in North America this was around the relegation, the auto relegation, right. And a team that everyone was expecting to win. They were playing like absolute donkeys. They were doing completely stupid stuff.
That's right, Rogue.
I have, So
it was
I have
former
comments.
Elevate players, weren't it? It was
Noble versus Mouse
on either team.
Noble versus
it was
Mouse.
Noble versus Mouse, which is now Rise.
Thank you for that.
And in Rise's defense, they said that they did not throw, but it did look strange.
It's what can you say? It was bizarre to see odd strategies, and there were all kinds of defenses that came out like, oh no, we've seen this in scrims as well. This is actually something they've been trying. And
that's right.
Who knows? Yep. Who am I? I've not scrimmed them, so I'm no one to doubt that. But the thing is, we had that, and I'm gonna say, I sincerely hope that we don't see anything that even suggests anything like that this season.
But answer the question: if you're Team Empire's coach, what would you do? Would you advise them to do that? If you let the stream beat you, you assure yourself that G2 will not be at the finals.
Yeah,
I mean, how that's a tough one.
Especially as they're on to win the league anyway, right?
Yeah, they're going to be a number 1 seed no matter what.
Yeah. It's not no matter what yet, but. Obviously, with no losses to date and only one draw, they are sitting quite comfortably with an 8-point lead. Yeah, I'm just going to say it again. I hope we don't see anything that even suggests that. I just really don't want to.
But I get what you're saying, Flanked. I mean, it's it's common sense that.
Yeah, and that's exactly the conversation sort of we had towards the end last season. Is like, are there some potential flaws and cracks that can occur when you have a dominant team that then has the ability to pick and choose, or when you have sort of like a team that can choose who gets relegated and who doesn't. Yeah. If there's no effect on that team itself, yikes. Yep. In terms of matches to watch in EU this week, I would say Lestream and Navi was a really good match to watch. Obviously, quite a lot at stake for the stream, and it was close. It did, interesting for sure.
Hands up, I didn't get to watch all the matches this week, so I won't be recommending any games.
Oh, okay then. To be fair, I can't watch all the matches. There was a time when I watched all the matches, and then we switched to this system where every team plays every week. And for a time, I still watched all the 3 main regions every match. I don't anymore, because guess what? It becomes a full-time job. And I can't justify, especially not since the US region and even LATAM to a degree are, from a time zone perspective, so far out of whack for me that I sacrifice my entire effectivity and efficiency for the entire week to be able to watch Pro League. So yeah, I think, Pete, you have nothing to apologize for there. It's too much to ask,
DNA ones are always really late for us as well, aren't they?
Exactly, they're terrible.
Yeah, stupidly late.
They don't
for
start
us,
until like 12 or 1 a.m. Let's have a look at Latin America, though, and as is sort of tradition, we have to say, things are ridiculously close for the entire first half of the table.
Jeez.
We still have Immortals in first place on 20 points, and they have 5 wins and 5 draws. That's not dominant for a first place. Then we have now Team Liquid. They're still in second on 19 points, 1 point less. Then, basically in third and fourth, we have Ninjas in Pyjamas and FaZe Clan, both on 18 points. So there's 2 points, which is essentially less than 1 win, since a win gives you 3 points. We have 2 points between the top half of the table. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me quickly run through the other teams then. Number 5, we have Black Dragons on 14 points, Red Devils Esports on 10, that's number 6, Ints on 8 points in position number 7, and currently in the relegation spot, but not necessarily completely out of it yet, is Pain Gaming on 5 points.
There we are. That top 4, though, I mean, it could all change week by week.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And let's see what we still have coming up. Let's have a look at FaZe Clan. So FaZe Clan has still to play Immortals, but other than
that's
that,
really the only top 4 matchup left.
Yeah, so they have Red Devils, Black Dragons, Bootcamp. They're playing lower ranked teams than them, and they have had really a great start to this season. They've won all of their matches so far, or this second half of the season. They've had the 3 probably toughest matchups, apart from Immortals, which are currently still in first. And they've won all 3 of them. So they are catching up and climbing the ranks quite significantly. And something that they've had to do, especially since, I mean, we've mentioned this a few times, obviously Team Liquid and FaZe Clan, those are always the big 2 rivals. And yeah, sadly, when they played against each other the first time round in the first half of the season, there was that power outage that then forced a forfeit that gave Team Liquid the win. And then, in the rematch this week, it was all to play for, and FaZe managed to win that one. And quite close as well. But they managed to claw it back, so definitely boosted them up.
Here's something interesting, Rogue. Black Dragons have NIP, FaZe, and Immortals to play in their next 3 games. Now, I mention this because they're actually a really competitive squad. They may be mid-table, but on their day, they can take points away from anyone. I've seen them play exceptionally well, and I've seen them play quite averagely. But that's really interesting. They might be the sort of kingmakers in that region, depending on how they come out. Because I saw them play Team Liquid, and that was a really close game that could have gone to a draw so easily.
So essentially, whoever Black Dragons can either draw or win against could be the team that's going to struggle to reach those top 2 spots.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they're not going to win. They're not going to go to Pro League. They're not going to get relegated. They're just sat there in the middle of the table. But, yeah, they could be kingmakers. It's really interesting just to watch Black Dragons. Or
if it all goes against them, if it goes horribly wrong, playing against the strongest teams, they could end up slipping quite a bit.
They could, I suppose you could argue, they could fall down towards 7th spot, but especially, I guess, with that fixture, with those 3 fixtures, I'd expect them to pick up some points from those, though, from those games. Be interesting.
Yeah. And looking at Immortals, again, they still have FaZe to come, but other than that, they've got Pain, Ints, and Black Dragons, so it's almost like now the top dogs have already played each other, and now it's going to be sort of the bottom half of the board versus the top half, because then we look at Liquid and they're going to play Ints, Pain, and Red Devils, and then NIP as well. So it's like almost like every team now, every one of the top teams has 1 more of each other to play, and the rest of it is going to be sort of top half of the table versus bottom half. And I guess, it's all about, for these sort of top teams to stay at the top and to get Salan, it's all about definitely making sure they can win those.
With these points being so close between those top 4 teams, it's not unfeasible that it might come down to different criteria other than points. So they want to be winning those matches very convincingly when they're playing the bottom teams.
Definitely. Flanked, any comments from you on LATAM this week?
It's just crazy how close it is. I mean, I echo what you guys said. The FaZe Immortals match is really the match to watch for the rest of the season. But I mean, with Immortals having 5 draws, it's not like you don't feel real confident in them that they're going to beat the teams that they have left on their schedule. So if they throw in a couple more draws mixed in with some wins from the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place teams, and all of a sudden they could find themselves in 4th place really quick.
All it needs is for Immortals to draw once and for any of the others to win their match, and they're on even points. Certainly even points for 3 and 4, and Liquid can even overtake them in 1 week.
Yep.
So there we go. Let's have a look at North America then. Of course, the truncated table with only 7 teams. We have Dark Zero still in the top position, 20 points. Evil Geniuses on 2nd position currently with 19 points, but we have to say again, they've played 1 less match. So technically you would have to say that probably Evil Geniuses is sort of ahead of Dark Zero.
They have to win that game in hand though, don't they? That's the thing. Because it's not guaranteed they'd win that game in hand.
Right. Yeah.
True, absolutely. But it's just so misleading now, because you look at this table and you've got 4 of the teams that have played 10 matches and 3 of the teams that have only played 9 matches. And how can you compare those? You really kind of can't.
Just looking at the fixtures as well, EG and Dark Zero do play quite soon.
Yep.
Next week.
Yeah, Dark Zero is off this week. I know that. So they don't play tonight. So
they've got a week of planning for EG.
Yeah. Well, EG and Team Reciprocity play. So no matter what, at best, Dark Zero will find themselves tied for the lead after today. Tied for 1st place. And points, anyway.
Yes, I hear you. Yeah. Well, yeah. Even if they draw, that's correct, yeah.
So let me then finish off the rest of the table. Reciprocity on 17 points, so 2 points behind EG. Again, they've played 10 matches. Space Station on 16 after 10 matches. Rogue on 14 points after 10 matches. And then at the bottom we have Accelerate Gaming on 9 points after 9 matches, and Rise on 6 points after 9 matches. So still things actually pretty close if you look at sort of the first 4 teams. There's only 4 points between the whole lot of them. And really from one team to the other, there's only either 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, every time that a team in North America has had the opportunity to really separate themselves as the number 1 team, they've failed to do so. EG, I think they drew the previous week, and then last week they lost. So they were in control, and after those 2 matches, now they find themselves right back in the mix. Dark Zero had the chance last week to really create some separation. They lost last week, or maybe it was 2 draws in a row. No, it was I believe EG just straight up lost last week. So
the other way around. It was the other way around. So you got it right. They drew last week and they lost the week before. They lost against Space Station.
Okay. And then Team Reciprocity, I believe they've lost their last 2 weeks. So
correct.
Here we have Space Station that was in either, I want to say 6th place at one point, and they're just creeping up. And they're probably the hottest team in North America right now. So yeah, I mean, watch out.
Oh, and what a fall from grace for Reciprocity, because they lost the last 2 weeks, and it's against Accelerate and Rise, the 2 bottom-ranked teams. How? I mean, you look at the first half of the season, and Reciprocity did not lose a match until the very last game, which was Dark Zero. And we've had 3 weeks so far, and they've not only have they not won yet, they've had 1 draw and 2 losses, but they've lost against the bottom place teams.
Yep. And tonight, I mean, you might as well call it Gut Check Monday in North America. EG versus Team Reciprocity. Winner is still in the mix. Loser is going to have a really tough time making it to LAN. And they both did it to
EG Rex should be next week.
Oh, is it next week? I'm sorry. I thought it was tonight.
No, that's next week. Let's make extra sure. I'm going to check. That is... Yes, so we've got...
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong... Yeah, okay, I was looking at the wrong week. So Dark Zero is not off tonight. Space Station's off tonight.
This is... Oh, here it is. Okay. Yeah, found it. Yes. Correct.
Okay. Well, okay.
But they will play each other, obviously, next week.
So tonight in North America, you have the top 3 teams, e.g., Dark Zero and Reciprocity, all playing the bottom half teams. Whoever, if any of those teams lose, they're done. That's really what it comes down to. All 3 of these teams need to handle business tonight if they want to stay in the mix.
Yep, for sure. Okay, then. So with that, shall we maybe move to some questions? To all the viewers, sure. If you have some questions, post them in the chat now, and we'll have, well, as always, we'll have 5 minutes to go over a few of them.
I've got a few questions.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so I've got one, which is an operator idea from Tyrone, sent in earlier. But just for you guys, so the operator's named Mist, and it's a Defender, 2-speed, 2 armor. I'm just going to go straight to the gadget. Can place 3 fogging machines on the floor that expands outward in a circular motion by about 5-meter radius, and they go vertically up by about 1 meter. The fog is 100 opaque at a range of 1 meter, but 75% opaque at further ranges. The unique gadget is a way to deny drones intel and forces them to jump to see, and then they have to pick a direction to look. And it also allows other placeable gadgets another form of protection. So it's like a fogging machine.
Yeah.
For defenders.
Basically, for drones only. Or maybe if you decide to go prone, then you would be in smoke?
I think you would still see the fog, though, wouldn't you, whether you was on a drone or not. So it would have that advantage, that innate advantage of breaking lines of sight. But would it play into a glass?
Yeah. I like where his head's going with the ability to have a gadget that uniquely blocks the information from a drone, and you can do it on command. That's what sounds really cool to me, is that on command, if I'm anchoring and there's, say, a minute left in the round, I can deny information from drones in sight for that final minute based upon how many of those I have left in my pocket. That's a really cool concept right there. I'm not sure that smoke is the best way to execute that. What if a Defender EMP was maybe a better way to execute that of some sort? A Defender gadget that he throws out and just for a short period of time blocks all electronic devices within that range. You also would have the counterplay of that of it would probably block friendly devices as well. So yeah, you can choose to throw it down, but then you have to worry about what you're doing to your own devices. Are you going to take out your friendly Evil Eye? Or are you going to take out your friendly, yokai drone? I would probably go that way, but I love the concept that he's got going here.
The thing that maybe throws me for a bit of a loop is the fact that it becomes opaque when you're close, but I can actually see through a distance, because that makes it useless as cover. If you're right behind it and you think you're in cover, you can't see, you can't defend yourself, but any attacker can just come and murder you. So I suppose maybe if you place it in a strategic location where, like, I don't know, in dirt tunnel just behind a corner, so that from a distance you can see, but the attacker's forced to sort of come around and then you can see them, they can't see you. Okay, maybe it could be useful in different situations. But I would always expect to be able to see through smoke more when I get closer rather than when I'm further away, just sort of intuitively.
Another concern I would have is the diffuser. So let's say the diffuser's on the ground planted and one of these go off. Now, granted, it would be a defender doing it, so that would be their own fault. But now you can't see the diffuser, and you can't, that could be a potential issue.
I had a question. Yeah, the Long Johnson 8 asked, do you think a competitive multiplayer mode should be added with like ESL rules, so you would have casual, ranked, and competitive? I think that's something that we've suggested in the past. Flanked, I think you've been a proponent of that.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're not going to make rank straight up ESL rules, I think that's maybe a better way to go about it. I've talked about, do you go casual, unranked, and ranked? Ranked being the ESL rules, unranked being the current ranked rules, just with no rank attached to it. That's a different way you can go too. But yeah, whatever, we agree. What the question is, yes.
I'm on board for that as well. I think that would be a good addition.
Yeah, the only downside I see is obviously a third group, so queuing times could become a bit longer. But other than that, you have the optionality, right? If you want to play less competitive maps, there is either the unranked mode or definitely the casual mode there for you. You have that variety that you can get. But if you want to play competitive maps only, then there they are. Although I think I do see also a risk in having like a very, very small map pool, like just the Pro League map pool for a mode like this, because, I mean, you've got wasted resources, you've got maps that then never get played. I don't know how I feel about that, the opportunity for players to just filter those out completely. Maybe a better solution is just to have more of a controlled rotation. I think the most frustrating thing right now when people are trying to play ranked and competitive, they get frustrated when they come onto a map they don't like, and then again, and then a different map maybe they don't like that's not in the ESL rotation, and then the same rank map again. So you see these frustrated tweets of people saying, I've just played Chalet 5 times in a row or something like that. So maybe just a system that either offers you a choice or that is more consistent, that controls the random selection so that you don't get the same map over and over and over again. So a basically less than random selection. It's
like a veto.
You,
veto one map.
Or just even a system behind the scenes. Like I remember the initial iPod had a randomization option that was truly random, and people complained that they kept hearing the same songs because it was truly random. So Apple put in a little algorithm that made sure that if you just heard a song that you wouldn't get it again for a while. So it actually felt more random, even though they restricted how random it was. Something like that for the map selection.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yep.
Anything from you, Flank, to close it off?
Gotta go. Should Twitch lose her ACOG? No. Twitch is fine where she's at. She's been nerfed a lot. I've said before that I think Twitch is kind of the opposite of Hibana. She's a victim of her weapon being so good that you nerf her gadget as many times as you have, and it doesn't seem like a big deal because she still has all that fragging capability. But with that said, I would not remove Twitch's ACOG. I really wouldn't. I know she's up there as far as win delta and pick rate, but I don't feel that Twitch is having the same impact on the game that Ashe was to justify that.
Yeah, she's not as fast. Her gadget is not as oppressive as it used to be. You have a very limited number. I'm okay. And the F2, in fairness, it's not one of the easiest guns to control. It takes a little bit of practice to be effective with that thing. If you're not ready for it, the fire rate can kick you up quite significantly.
Yeah, I'm not in favour of it either. While you were talking, I did just Google the win deltas, and it did surprise me to see the last two. She's definitely up there as being overpicked and too strong, but I don't ever feel as though she's like this crazy overpowered operator that's being picked all of the time. She definitely feels, yeah. That being said, she is getting picked 50% of the time teams play, but I'm guessing that's down to the DPS off that F2.
Yeah,
but
it's an amazing
it doesn't
gun.
feel like how Ashe felt, right?
Right.
You know, so there's
it doesn't feel like Twitch is an exploit. Ashe at times felt like an exploit.
All right, there was one last quick question here. My Beef Stew Pants came in. He's asking if we're aware of any changes to the matchmaking this season, especially, he says, because he's run into less boosters than last season.
Did the MMR roll back? I mean, or did they bring that back in?
The last I heard and last I remember was that it was turned off.
Okay. Well, that might have just the thought of it being there might have just dissuaded. A lot of times you don't see the boosters until the end of the season. I know that towards the end of last season you started seeing them a little bit more commonly. Plus, the player count at the beginning of the season is always higher, so you're less likely to run into a booster per se. It's also less recognizable because ranks are very volatile at this point. So with that said, it wouldn't surprise me if they did manipulate the matchmaking a little bit here and there, but I haven't noticed anything per se.
Yeah, and certainly there's been no official news at all that I can speak of, so my answer would be no, I'm not aware of any changes. Righty-ho then, is that it from you guys?
I think so.
Ready to wrap it up? So, Thank you everyone who joined us live, and thank you everyone who's watching the VOD back or listening to us on one of our many audio platforms that we are now on. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we shall see you again next week. Bye for now.
See you later, guys. Thank you.